another little man.
The fault, dear Brutus.
Left off. The clock has started.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America. Abject fear. Are you talking about you?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I will be dedicating the rest of February to African American heritage. It is such a rich, multifaceted culture for white people to embrace and make less black. For instance, jazz. We smooth that out for you. You're welcome. And, ladies and gentlemen, while not all of us are black, we are all victims of racism. Slavery is America's original sin, our primal wound. And 150 years later, its terrible legacy still looms over American life so large that it's almost impossible to talk about race without offending someone, especially Koreans. They're humorless people. But now, something can finally be done to lift the painful burden of racism once and for all. It comes from a story I heard on NPR. Now, I know, but I was driving a rental and the knob was torn off. You see, folks, it was a report on something called the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, which tracked young people over 19 years to see how their lives had changed. And one of the researchers, Stanford sociologist Aaliyah Saperstein, found something truly shocking.
Saperstein found that the racial classifications of people in the survey seemed to change over time.
What our research challenges is this idea that the race of an individual is fixed. 20% of the respondents experienced at least one change in how the interviewer perceived them by race over the course of different observations.
Yes, your race can change over time. Much like how in winter John Boehner fades from pumpkin to butternut. So, while this is amazing, it's an extraordinary story. So what would cause someone's race to change, I say, you ask? Well, if someone in the study went to jail, the interviewer was more likely to see the person as black. No wonder those white power prison gangs are so scary. They're all black guys. The point is, Americans believe black people do certain things, therefore people who do those things must be black. Or as NPR put it, it's not just our perceptions of race that drive our stereotypes, but our stereotypes that drive our perceptions of race. Yes, our perceptions of race are driven by racial stereotypes, which is why they're always getting pulled over. Now, incredibly, folks, you can even undergo a race change after you're dead, because the study found that when people had died as a result of homicide, funeral directors were more likely to list the person as being black. And if the person died of alcoholic cirrhosis, the funeral director was more likely to list the person as being Native American. And they list you as white if you choked on kale chips while dancing to Jason Mraz.
It's very sick. We have a deranged country. It's deranged, I tell you. It's off the hook. It's out of control. But it seems to me that the President of the United States understands that it's off the hook and out of control, and that Bill O'Reilly does not. It was amazing. Yesterday, while we were doing the show, the President had a get-together at the White House in the East Room, where he had people as diverse as 6'5" Bill O'Reilly, standing next to 4'11" Al Sharpton, 9'7". Yeah, it was all, Magic Johnson. It was all by size. It was, size matters in the Obama. But they had this announcement that was more than a year in the making about this Brothers Keeper initiative that the president has started. And no, it's not a government thing, because the president cannot work with Congress. Congress will not work with the black president. Congress will not work with a Democratic president very well, but then add on top of it that he's the first African-American president, and all bets are off. There will be no legislation. There will be no stimulus. There will be no infrastructure. There will be no highway projects. There will be no immigration reform. There will be no tax. There will be no minimum wage increase, and these are things we all agree on. That's the crazy part. We all agree on background checks. These are things we all agree on. And we still can't get it done because you've got lame-bows in the Congress who are so afraid of their own shadow. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of you. They're afraid of me. They're afraid of black people. They're afraid of young people. They're afraid of music. They're afraid of music. And so they're cowering in their corners. Meanwhile, the president said, you know what, I got to tell you, there is no waiting on this. Can't wait. Congress isn't going to act. They're not going to do anything. And quite frankly, we've done stuff in our administration. Obviously, Eric Holder has moved to restore felons' voting rights. We've had sentencing disparities begin to be addressed. We've had the president, because he can do this, commute sentences of nonviolent drug offenders and intends to review even more cases and commute the sentences of people who are languishing in jail who had a tiny little amount of something or other and weren't drug dealers and weren't involved in any violence but are still sitting in jail. So the president has done things that he can do on his own, because he doesn't have a Congress that will do anything. Nothing. This is why we call them the do-nothing Congress, and this is why their approval rating is like 9%. 9. Yeah, they're going to make a big deal all the time about, the president only has a 50% approval rating. Only half the country approves. Guess which half? But Congress only has a 9% approval rating. 9. So the president decided that he was going to launch an effort on his own. He was going to use his pen. He was going to use his phone. And he was going to call people. This apparently started after Trayvon Martin. This really hit home for him. President was clear yesterday that he doesn't have a son. But if he did, he would want his son to live in a country where he could actually say truthfully to his son, you are a valued person here, too. Your life matters. You know, you have to have pride and dignity and self-reliance also, because this is a fair country, treats you fairly, and, you have to work hard because then you can get ahead. Obviously, he doesn't have a son, but he talked about that. And he talked about himself, which was really deep, I got to say.
I explained to them that when I was their age, I was a lot like them. I didn't have a dad in the house. And I was angry about it, even though I didn't necessarily realize it at the time. I made bad choices. I got high without always thinking about the harm that it could do. I didn't always take school as seriously as I should have. I made excuses. Sometimes I sold myself short. And I remember when I was saying this, Christian, you may remember this, after I was finished, the guy sitting next to me said, are you talking about you? I said, yeah. And the point was I could see myself in these young men. And the only difference is that I grew up in an environment that was a little bit more forgiving. So when I made a mistake, the consequences were not as severe. I had people who encouraged me, not just my mom and grandparents, but wonderful teachers and community leaders. And they pushed me to work hard and study hard and make the most of myself. And if I didn't listen, they said it again. And if I didn't listen, they said it a third time. And they would give me second chances and third chances. They never gave up on me. And so I didn't give up on myself.
That was really a special moment, I got to say, because, this is deeply personal for this president. It's deeply personal for the First Lady, and it's deeply personal for us. It's deeply personal for people who give a rat's ass about our kids, all of our kids. The reason why it's called My Brother's Keeper is obviously biblical. It's obviously something out of Genesis. When Cain and Abel got into it, God said, where's your brother? And he said, what, am I my brother's keeper? That's where it comes from. And the answer clearly is yes. Yes, you are. We are all in this thing together. That's why e pluribus unum, out of many, one. That is the motto of the United States. The motto of the United States is not accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior and you too can be, heaven bound. No, that is not. And we don't have a national religion. But what we do have is a country that says we take care of each other. We look out for each other. Communities are important. Neighborhoods are important. Our neighbors are ourselves. We love thy neighbor. We love each other. We care. We're only as strong as the least among us. This is what they teach in the military, that you're only as strong as the weakest link, because the weakest link can get you killed. This is exactly what training looks like, and it's exactly what makes people stronger, is having to look out for somebody who's weaker. It not only fulfills you, but it does make you stronger. So the president used his own story as an example of what can be accomplished. Now, I was a little nervous about this because when I was listening to it last night, I thought, oh, geez, here's the right-wingers. They're going to support a program that's going to result in even more African-American presidents. Sure they will. Sure. And, 5 seconds later, you turn on the radio and you hear...
And it's the same reason why the governor and all of the forces behind this bill laid down. There is just abject fear of minorities right now. There is fear of being labeled a bigot or a racist. The whole debate is set up. Everything the majority wants to do now is bigoted, anti-discriminatory. Or not anti, it is discriminatory.
Yes, because it is. And so he's out there telling everybody, don't forget to hate people. Don't forget. And don't be afraid to do it, because you can't be afraid of minorities, those damn minorities. And, of course, he was talking about gay people, because that was his rant on the Arizona veto. So are you afraid of drive-by fashion police? I mean, what is this? Why is he so afraid of gay people? He's afraid of what? Gays are going to mock his tacky fat guy shirts? Hey, man boobs, get a bra, wear a bro. You know what I mean? But the message is clear, that each and every person in this country should be stood up to. And it doesn't matter how you stand up to them, whether you discriminate against them, don't be afraid. Whether you dismiss them, don't be afraid. If you jail them, don't be afraid. If you put policies in place that have disparate drug sentences for black kids versus white kids, don't be afraid, do it. If you want to introduce discriminatory laws that say this class of people is different from that class of people, therefore we get to legislate what you can do, and we're going to legislate what you can't do. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of being called a bigot. Don't be afraid of being called a racist. This is what we're up against. I swear to God. Now, obviously he has no fear of being called a bigot or a racist. That's how he can tell he's doing his job. Because if he decided he wouldn't say anything racist and bigoted, him and Ted Nugent both would have to take a vow of perpetual silence. But the president is unafraid of the fear-mongers, and did an amazing thing yesterday. Really, truly, that speech was so awesome. It was so personal. It was so full of solutions and so full of the right feeling, things that do make this country, exceptional. Although he did invite Michael Bloomberg, because Michael Bloomberg gave a lot of money, like $35 million. But I was glad that he was there, because he didn't have the ability to stop and frisk anybody, so it was okay. It was okay. But I want to play you some of this speech, because it was important, really important. And for all of us who sit there and say, there's nothing one person can do, or, I don't know how, we're going to do this, the president found some really good solutions yesterday for some really big problems. 20 after.
Randi Rhodes. Making the world a better place, whether the world wants it or not. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
You're listening to Radio Monterey at radiomonterey.com.
Call 866-87-RANDY. That's 1-866-877-2634. Now, back to Randi Rhodes.
If you're African American, there's about 1 in 2 chance you grow up without a father in your house. 1 in 2. If you're Latino, you have about 1 in 4 chance. We know that boys who grow up without a father are more likely to be poor, more likely to underperform in school. As a black student, you are far less likely than a white student to be able to read proficiently by the time you are in 4th grade. By the time you reach high school, you're far more likely to have been suspended or expelled. There's a higher chance you end up in the criminal justice system, and a far higher chance that you are the victim of a violent crime. Fewer young black and Latino men participate in the labor force compared to young white men. And all of this translates into higher unemployment rates and poverty rates as adults. And the worst part is we've become numb to these statistics. We're not surprised by them. We take them as the norm. We just assume this is an inevitable part of American life, instead of the outrage that it is.
I couldn't believe, when have you ever heard a president talk like this? When have you ever heard a president put out some very difficult, hard statistics and then say, here's the solution to the problem? And the solution to the problem that he laid out was mentoring kids, easing the sentencing disparities, commute the sentences of nonviolent offenders, be a better parent, read to your kids, all these real basic things that we've let fall by the wayside. And it has caused our economy to leave so many people behind. And it's generational. It's now affecting communities where America is starting to look more like Appalachia than Appalachia is looking like America. And it's all because of these horrible statistics. It's all because of at-risk kids who are, going to substandard schools as the property, taxes, the base of the property taxes is decimated. More people renting, less people owning, etc. Less people able to stay, in their neighborhoods and having to move out of their houses and into apartments and having to, move where the jobs are and leave familiar things behind and a community behind and go someplace where they're not. Now, it just exacerbates the entire spiral downward for every single American who was either hanging on by their fingernails or never even got a chance to get to the ledge. And so I was stunned to hear it. I really was, and I thought it was just awesome to sit there and listen to, these very difficult statistics and these amazingly decent solutions for what we've brought upon ourselves by putting into policy these draconian laws and these, the institutional racism that still exists in our justice system and still exists in our laws. It's still, and that the right wing wants even more policies embedded in the law that discriminate against another group or this group or that group, or and you have to say to yourself, my God, if we all know that institutional discrimination, institutional racism, institutional bigotry is something we should be trying to remove from our laws, then riddle me this: why are the right wing trying to put more of that into the law? Why are they looking to do more discrimination, more enshrining or codifying in law bigotry and hatred? It's a very strange position we're in, but it's a position that we could take advantage of, because I think everybody is sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Randi Rhodes. Turn up your mind. Here. Now. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
Your mind. Here. Now, back to Randi Rhodes.
But these statistics should break our hearts. And they should compel us to act. You know, Michelle and I are blessed with 2 beautiful daughters. We don't have a son. But I know if I had a son, on the day he was born, I would have felt everything I felt with Belia and Sasha. The awe, the gratitude, the overwhelming sense of responsibility to do everything in my power to protect that amazing new life from this big world out there. And just as our daughters are growing up into wonderful, beautiful young women, I'd want my son to feel a sense of boundless possibility. And I'd want him to have independence and confidence. And I'd want him to have empathy and compassion. I'd want him to have a sense of diligence and commitment and a respect for others and himself. The tools that he'd need to succeed. I don't have a son, but as parents, that's what we should want, not just for our children, but for all children. And I believe the continuing struggles of so many boys and young men, the fact that too many of them are falling by the wayside, dropping out, unemployed, involved in negative behavior, going to jail, being profiled, this is a moral issue for our country. It's also an economic issue for our country. After all, these boys are a growing segment of our population. They are our future workforce. When generation after generation they lag behind, our economy suffers. Our family structure suffers. Our civic life suffers. Cycles of hopelessness breed violence and mistrust. And our country's a little less than what we know it can be.
This was really something, I got to say. I mean, you know, the aim here, of course, is to start a different cycle. You know, if America actually starts to embrace the people who have the hardest times, if America starts to understand that, you know, dismantling the middle class or people who were just making it into the middle class who got decimated back in 2008, people who have never recovered because we don't have a real recovery in this country, people who have never, you know, seen a day where they weren't profiled, people who have never seen a day in court where there weren't sentencing disparities or there wasn't, written into the law the prejudice and the bigotry of a nation that believed that there should be some sort of a different way of handling crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. That felons never get to vote ever again, that they can't work. I mean, we are literally cutting off our legs at the knees when we do these things. And the idea that now all America feels it, all America agrees that the middle class is being hobbled, that people are being thrown out of the middle class into poverty. It creates a cycle of violence. It creates a cycle of illegal activity, bad behavior, resentment, distrust, mistrust, whatever you want to call it. But the idea that the President of the United States would actually say something about profiling there or bring up the reason why he started this, down this road, which was everything to do with Trayvon Martin, was a showstopper.
In the aftermath of the Trayvon Martin verdict, with all the emotions and controversy that it sparked, I spoke about the need to bolster and reinforce our young men and give them the sense that their country cares about them and values them and is willing to invest in them. And I'm grateful that Trayvon's parents, Sabrina and Tracy, are here with us today, along with Jordan Davis's parents, Lucy and Ron. In my State of the Union address last month, I said I'd pick up the phone and reach out to Americans willing to help more young men of color facing especially tough odds to stay on track and reach their full potential so America can reach its full potential. And that's what today is all about. After months of conversation with a wide range of people, we've pulled together private philanthropies and businesses, mayors, state and local leaders, faith leaders, nonprofits, all who are committed to creating more pathways to success. And we're committed to building on what works. And we call it My Brother's Keeper. Now, just to be clear, My Brother's Keeper is not some big new government program. In my State of the Union address, I outlined the work that needs to be done for broad-based economic growth and opportunity for all Americans. Manufacturing hubs, infrastructure spending. I've been traveling around the country for the last several weeks talking about what we need to do to grow the economy and expand opportunity for everybody. And in the absence of some of those macroeconomic policies that create more good jobs and restore middle-class security, it's going to be harder for everyone to make progress.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 4 years, we've been working through initiatives like Promise Zones to help break down the structural barriers from lack of transportation to substandard schools that afflict some of this country's most impoverished counties. And we'll continue to promote these efforts in urban and rural counties alike. So those are all government initiatives, government programs that we think are good for all Americans, and we're going to keep on pushing for them. But what we're talking about here today with My Brother's Keeper is a more focused effort on boys and young men of color who are having a particularly tough time.
I love this. I got to say, I love this. I love that the president, well, how diplomatic was he? In the absence of, meaning Congress is like, brain dead, and they won't do anything. And so, because they won't, we decided we would, do the phone and the pen thing, and we would reach out to businesses and foundations and community groups that could coordinate investments to come up with and support programs that keep people out of the criminal justice system, improve their access to higher education, sends a message to young black kids who in this country, we've had so many conversations on this show, and I asked you because I don't know the answer. I didn't know. I do now. What do you tell your children if you are a parent with an African-American boy that you're raising? What do you tell them about this country? What do you tell them about the value of their lives? What do you tell them when you can watch a trial where a guy obviously, for no reason at all, shoots an unarmed kid, stalks an unarmed kid, monitors an unarmed kid, profiles an unarmed kid, because the kid is walking in the rain and has his hood up on a sweatshirt, all of a sudden he's a thug, he's a bad kid. And then go through a second trial where you have another guy who obviously had 5 rum and cokes at his son's wedding and still thinks he's okay to get in a car and drive to the convenience store to buy even more alcohol, and then has the audacity to tell kids in a car next to him to turn it down. They do. They turn it back up to a level where they can hear the music, but it's not banging loud, out of deference to this guy, and it's still not good enough, and he provokes and escalates the situation, ends up going into his glove box, unholstering a gun, loading the gun, all because he believes they have a gun pointed at him. If they had a gun pointed at him during that entire period of time where he's reaching into the glove box, taking out his gun, taking it out of the concealed carry holster, putting bullets in it, he would have been dead. Okay? Because none of that was true. And then, of course, the guy does not get convicted of killing the kid he killed. But instead the jury comes back with, well, you attempted to murder the other kids, and they weren't doing anything. Only this kid was. But this kid wasn't doing anything either. So I asked you, how do you send a message to your kids that their lives matter, that America, for the most part, cares about them, that we've got these remnant bigots, we've got this fringy group out there that will kill you, that actually will, do whatever they can because they perceive you as being dangerous. They perceive your very existence as a threat. And people called me up, and some were crying, and some said, look, I tell my kid, to behave. I tell my kid, don't make any sudden moves. I tell my kid to, stay out of the way. I mean, it's just so sad. Now you have a president of the United States who wants to send the message. America and Americans, for the most part, do value your children. They care about your children as much as they care about their own. You've got all these foundations and businesses and community groups and, dignitaries and ordinary kids who obviously care about themselves and obviously care about others and obviously want the ability, want the chance, want the feeling that they can go to a business, they can see people that look like them doing all kinds of work, from tech work to accountants to lawyers to going into the White House and seeing an African-American president and his staff and recognizing in that staff that there are kids, there are adults that look just like they do, that their lives can be successful. And yet you look at the unemployment rate for African-American men over the age of 20, and it's 12% last month. It's 5.4 for white men. Same for Hispanics. 8.2% for Hispanics. White men, 5.4%. Somebody somewhere has to make people understand that America is not this fringe right thing that appears on the media every day, that they are enriching themselves and they're doing it at your expense, which is where you draw the line. And the president was like, look, family is really important, but he did not, neglect to say that when people are very poor or people are marginalized or people are told that they can't succeed, when expectations are set very low or neighborhoods are allowed to disintegrate, where boarded up windows, beget boarded up windows and a disdain for where you live and a value about where you live that says we don't matter because look at the situation, look at the way that these houses are, look at the way that it's kept here, look at this condition of the school, we don't have school books here, they don't care about funding us, they don't care about, our safety, they don't care about our neighborhoods, then you start to decide that no one cares about you and that your life is of less value than others. That is the exact wrong message. It is the exact wrong ideology. It is the exact wrong way for us to economically grow or for us to morally grow or for us to spiritually grow. In fact, it kills the spirit, it kills the economy, and it kills the community feeling that America is longing for. And this president is uniquely qualified to talk about this. And he took advantage of his uniqueness instead of playing into the fears of the right wing about his uniqueness. He has moved to do an extraordinary amount of things without Congress because they can't go to them. But he has moved to commute sentences for non-violent drug offenders. They are working to get rid of the sentencing disparities that disproportionately imprison black men. Eric Holder, as you know, this month was encouraging states to repeal the laws that permanently bar felons from voting even after they had served their sentences. We can make this work. There is no question. But there is an impediment to progress. The right wing.
It's these gangster rappers, it's the athletes, it's the tattoo guys. You got to get them in there to tell these kids that you got to stop the destructive behavior. You're going to wind up in a morgue or in prison.
This was Bill O'Reilly, who was there yesterday's reaction to Valerie Jarrett from the White House, who not only invited him, but then was invited to Bill O'Reilly's show to discuss what the president said. The president specifically invited Bill O'Reilly because Bill O'Reilly, as you remember, we played this yesterday for you, was sitting there on February 4th and told the president that, the president never talks about race. The president doesn't do anything at all to help the black community. The president needs to talk to them about pregnancy and out-of-wedlock births and premarital sex and rap.
I think don't underestimate those children. That's what I would say to you.
Anybody.
I think when the President of the United States looks at you and he says, I believe in you and that I was just like you and you can be just like me, that's the perfect role model. That's the person they should have.
You know
First Lady,
you know her very well,
outstanding
right?
role model for the young people.
Listen to this crap. Bill O'Reilly thinks that Michelle Obama is doing nothing to address teen pregnancies because Michelle Obama hasn't appeared on his little propaganda show.
I want you to tell her something from me tonight. Okay. I like the nutrition thing. I like the garden. I think that's all good.
Healthy eating. Let's move.
I want Michelle Obama
exercise.
to come on this program right here. And I want Michelle Obama to look into that camera and say, you teenage girls, you stop having sex. You stop getting pregnant. This is wrong. I want her to do that right here. Do you think she would?
Well, I think what's more important than Michelle Obama coming on Fox News is for her to spend time with young girls, which she does. She's had a mentorship program for young girls since she first took office. Both the president and the first lady talk about the importance of marriage, the importance of responsibility, and she does it all the time.
The nerve of these people. The nerve of them. I want Michelle Obama to come on this. You know, Michelle Obama has a girls mentoring program. Michelle Obama has had girls over to the White House a million times. Michelle Obama goes to schools regularly. They make fun of her, right, because she goes to the schools and she dances, or she goes to the schools and she exercises, and the right wing's always mocking her and making fun of her for doing those things and saying her arms aren't that great and she's too fat, and Russia's always calling her fat, and from behind she looks like Oprah, right? She's always making herself available to talk to kids and women and youth and teen girls. But until she goes on Bill O'Reilly's little propaganda show, well, she's doing nothing. These people live in a bubble. A bubble. And they have no idea what the pressures are on our families. 10 till.
Randy Rhodes. RandyRhodes.com. Separating man from monkey since 2002. This is the Randy
KRXA 540. Progressive talk for Monterey, Salinas, and Santa Cruz. Visit our website at krxa540.com.
Turn up your mind. Here. Now, back to Randy Rhodes.
If I can persuade, Sharpton and O'Reilly to be in the same meeting, then it means that they're people of good faith who want to get some stuff done, even if we don't agree on everything.
Yeah,
and that's our focus.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Except that Bill O'Reilly didn't absorb anything that you said, because later that day...
You have to attack the fundamental disease if you want to cure it. Now, I submit to you that you're going to have to get people like Jay-Z, Kanye West, all of these gangster rappers to knock it off.
That's what he took away from this. Jay-Z is a gangster rapper? That's news to me. Kanye West? He married a freaking Kardashian and raps about being thrown out of, fashion shows. Not exactly Compton stuff. Do you know what I mean? This is not exactly, a cop killer here. Gangster rap has been kind of dead and gone for a really long time. I mean, this is just, it's an amazing thing. He's talking about black youth and gangster culture again. He doesn't understand the white culture of anybody under the age of 65 or 80. So what is he going to sit here and lecture Valerie Jarrett about gangster culture? It's an interesting theory, Bill, except that all the white kids love gangster rap, too. Why aren't they being held back, too? You know what I mean? This is like this racist stuff that people just sit in their living rooms. They go, yeah, that's it. The president didn't talk about Kanye West and Jay-Z. Jay-Z? Really? Jay-Z? Jay-Z is to gangster rap like Bob Dylan is to hardcore metal. What are you talking? It has nothing to do with gangster culture unless your definition of gangsta is anything or anyone who is black. Jay-Z is a successful middle-aged businessman who records songs about how much he loves his wife. If that's gangsta, then the Hamptons are the hood. Kanye West, please, no self-respecting gangster would be going out with a Kardashian. He hangs out with Bruce Jenner when he goes to see her. Bruce Jenner. You're disqualified from the gangster realm right there.
This is the Randy Rhodes Show on the Premier Radio Networks.
Mary had a little lamb.
The fault
dear Brutus. Liftoff. The clock has started.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Abject fear.
Are you talking about you?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Over the years, we've identified key moments in the life of a boy or a young man of color that will, more often than not, determine whether he succeeds or falls through the cracks. We know this. We know the data. We know the statistics. And if we can focus on those key moments, those life-changing points in their lives, you can have a big impact. You can boost the odds for more of our kids. First of all, we know that during the first 3 years of life, a child born into a low-income family hears 30 million fewer words than a child born into a well-off family. And everybody knows babies are sponges. They just soak that up. A 30 million word deficit is hard to make up. And if a black or Latino kid isn't ready for kindergarten, he's half as likely to finish middle school with strong academic and social skills. So by giving more of our kids access to high-quality early education and by helping parents get the tools they need to help their children succeed, we can give more kids a better shot at the career they're capable of in the life that will make us all better off. So that's point number one, right at the beginning. Point number two, if a child can't read well by the time he's in third grade, he's 4 times less likely to graduate from high school by age 19 than one who can. And if he happens to be poor, he's 6 times less likely to graduate. So by boosting reading levels, we can help more of our kids make the grade, keep on advancing, reach that day that so many parents dream of until it comes close and then you start tearing up, and that's when they're walking across the stage holding that high school diploma. Number 3, we know that Latino kids are almost twice as likely as white kids to be suspended from school. Black kids are nearly 4 times as likely. And if a student has been suspended even once by the time they're in 9th grade, they are twice as likely to drop out. And that's why my administration has been working with schools on alternatives to the so-called zero-tolerance guidelines.
Thank God.
Not because teachers or administrators or fellow students should have to put up with bad behavior, but because there are ways to modify bad behavior that lead to good behavior, as opposed to bad behavior out of school. We can make classrooms good places for learning for everybody without jeopardizing a child's future.
And this is what we were talking about yesterday, right? We were talking about the zero-tolerance policies that are in place in school where you could get suspended or expelled for throwing peanuts on the bus, but not before you pass through the sheriff's office or you pass through the court system. I mean, these kids are being fed into the juvenile justice system at a rate that I've never, ever heard of before or seen before for the stupidest of offenses. Remember the girl I told you yesterday who she was doing a science project and her science project exploded in the lab, in the science lab in the school? They didn't, give her detention, or they prosecuted her like a terrorist. I mean, there are kids that go to jail for wearing the wrong uniform or wearing the wrong color belt, or, kindergartners who've been handcuffed because they have a temper tantrum in kindergarten. This is what the president is talking about. He's talking about the obligation of parents when you first have your child, that early education. The earlier you begin, the better off your child will be, because even though your child is a baby, your child is absorbing language and attitudes and trust issues are all being decided, when that baby is a baby. But, the right wing, they love the fetus. They don't really care that much for the baby. You know, and then we know third grade is a very important marker in a child's life. If a kid, and I said this yesterday, if a kid isn't reading at third grade level by third grade, chances are that kid is doomed to drop out of high school. And when you start funneling your kids into the juvenile justice system, you literally ruin their chances of finding a good job. You ruin their chances of going to college. You ruin their chances of graduating high school. You ruin their chances for the rest of their lives.
We know that students of color are far more likely than their white classmates to find themselves in trouble with the law. If a student gets arrested, he's almost twice as likely to drop out of school. By making sure our criminal justice system doesn't just function as a pipeline for underfunded schools to overcrowded jails, we can help young men of color stay out of prison, stay out of jail. And that means then they're more likely to be employable and to invest in their own families and to pass on a legacy of love and hope. And finally, we know young black men are twice as likely as young white men to be disconnected, not in school, not working. We've got to reconnect them. We've got to give more of these young men access to mentors. We've got to continue to encourage responsible fatherhood. We've got to provide more pathways to apply to college or find a job. We can keep them from falling through the cracks and help them lay a foundation for a career and a family and a better life. And in the discussion before we came in, General Powell talked about the fact that there are going to be some kids who just don't have a family at home that is functional, no matter how hard we try. But just an adult, any adult who's paying attention, can make a difference. Any adult who cares can make a difference.
Now, all of that was said yesterday. Everything about how he began, how he was an angry kid because he didn't have a father. He didn't know it at the time, but he was. How he used drugs without fear of consequences. How he wasn't a great student. How he was, shortchanging himself and ready to give up on himself. But that the people around him would not do so. That even though there was no father in the house, there were adults around him who weren't severe with him, but were adamant. Who weren't punitive with him, but were supportive of him enough so that he could believe in himself, he could understand that he was able to learn and achieve, and he could reach his dreams because people around him told him so, because people around him explained that he was worthy, that he was decent, that he was smart, that he was good, that he was worth it, that he should believe in himself because they believed in him. And he is now the President of the United States of America. So he told that story. He told the story about how the economy is jeopardized or hindered or hobbled when you have a chunk of society that is marginalized or stereotyped or has low expectations because others have set low expectations. How that not only screws up a kid, but screws up our economy, screws up the ability to have a job where somebody is a taxpayer, have a future where somebody can go all the way and maybe invent something or work in the tech field or be a doctor or be a lawyer or be an accountant, and how important it is to start early, to repeat it often, to value these children as you value your own. Pretty damn good message, backed up by commitments of $350 million from philanthropies, private foundations, and community organizations who already know the key points in any child's life where they will succeed or fail depending on the support they get early, third grade, and, of course, in the school system with punishment that is not so severe that it hobbles them for the rest of their educational life and their income-earning life. And the reaction on the right was,
you have to attack the fundamental disease if you want to cure it. Now, I submit to you that you're going to have to get people like Jay-Z, all right, Kanye West, all of these gangster rappers to knock it off. That's number one.
What I think these boys need is they need positive role models, which you said.
Listen to me. You got to get where they live. All right, they had idolized these guys with the hats on backwards and the terrible rap lyrics and a drug and all of that. You got to get these guys, and I think President Obama can do it. And you got to put them on TV and the net, and they got to say, knock it off. This is wrong. You've got to get them all. And then you got to get the president and the first lady and every other profile. You have Magic Johnson there today. He's a good guy. And you got a bunch of these guys. And you got to barrage, and make it uncomfortable to have a baby out of wedlock. Make it uncomfortable to sell drugs. You've got to reverse the peer pressure. You see where I'm coming from here?
I see exactly what you're coming from. And what we showed today is that there is evidence that there are wonderful programs out there that can inspire these young people. The president is a terrific role model. The room today was full of role models that these young boys can look up to. And what we have to do is take what's working and take it to scale.
All right. Are you just blowing off my idea here?
No, I'm just telling you that I think that there's a lot of ways of approaching.
You had Colin Powell in there. You had
terrific
a lot of
role model.
Right. But they don't even know who he is. All right.
Actually, I think they do.
On the south side of Chicago.
Oh, of course they know.
But he's over here.
They know who Colin Powell is. Oh.
You know, this down talking, this unbelievable. First of all, he said young black kids idolize these guys with the hats on backwards. That's Justin Bieber, you moron. Hats on backwards? Really? That describes everybody from a boy band to a Seattle grunge rocker from 1990. This is what they think the problem is? You got to get them where they live. They don't know who Colin Powell is. Valerie Jarrett's sitting there going, of course they know who Colin Powell is. What's wrong with you? They're not your Fox viewing audience. They're kids who know who Colin Powell is. I just, listen, it's so amazing that no matter what is offered, the right wing is going to trash it or marginalize it, just like they trash or marginalize people. They just don't understand that all children need early education. All children need to be reading at third grade level by third grade. All children need punishment in school for bad behavior, but not severe enough to ruin their educational career, their opportunities later on, their ability to get admitted to a college. This prison pipeline, this school to prison pipeline thing we got going on is rank and wrong, and it piles on top of all the other institutionalized ways that we punish people we don't like. It goes hand in hand with what we saw in Arizona this week. Even more discriminatory measures, even more emphasis on who's different and who's odd and who we don't value and who doesn't fit in and who shouldn't be allowed to contribute to the economy. I mean, the right wing they're lunatics. 19 after.
Randi Rhodes. More woman than you can handle. But want to try? 866-87-RANDY. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
You're listening to KRXA 540 AM, the voice of the occupation.
If we don't talk about it, who will? You're listening to Randi on Premier Radio Networks.
All right. Mike in Milwaukee.
Hey, Randy. Hey, I was just telling Sean I was listening to you and listening to Bill O'Reilly, and he says, maybe the president should bring in Kanye. And I remember the president called Kanye a jackass one time for something that he did. I doubt if he's going to reach out to Conway. Number two, when they had the rapper, and when they had the rapper Common come to the White House, the right wing freaked out.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And number
You know why? You know why they freaked out? Because they don't know who Common is. They have no idea what his poems are about. They have all they know is he's black, therefore gangsta. That's the racism. And that's not even subtle. I mean, that was all over the airwaves.
Well, no, here's the best racism for you. Bill O'Reilly one time went to, I can't remember, it's a prominent African-American restaurant in the Bronx.
No, it was in Harlem.
Is it okay, Harlem? Mm-hmm. He went there with Reverend Al, and I heard this out of his mouth. He goes, I was pleasantly surprised. They had silverware on the table.
That's right.
And then he says, and then I didn't hear anybody say that word. Where's my iced tea? Like they're gonna say, mother blank blank. Where's my iced tea?
Right.
Remember that? I didn't hear these things, and I'm sitting there listening to him going, what is your problem, dude? And then my last point is this: why in the world would the president or the first lady ever step foot in a Fox News studio to do an interview with anyone over? I'm surprised he even talks to Bill O'Reilly. The way that they talked about these people, the way they belittled them and everything. Why would they even go in there? And the second thing is, President Obama is way too smart to go on a show like Fox and then sit there and try to lecture the black people about what we should be doing.
Well, here. First of all, yes, I'm sure the president heard Bill O'Reilly's comments about Sylvia's Restaurant, which is an iconic place in Harlem, and how they actually use silverware, and they weren't saying "bring my iced tea, MF," right?
Right. Yeah.
He called Kanye West a jackass because Kanye West jumped up on the stage at an awards thing and made an ass out of himself, and so he called him a jackass. As far as interviewing with Bill O'Reilly, the president has done that more often than he's interviewed with MSNBC or with anybody else. He did the Super Bowl interview with Bill O'Reilly, where Bill O'Reilly decided to talk old news about Obamacare's website not working, and then threw it in his face that there's so many African American kids without a dad, like Obama was responsible for all this. But I will tell you why they do it. I'll tell you why Michelle and Barack Obama give Bill O'Reilly any airtime. Because they're better than Bill O'Reilly. They are the president and the first lady of all America, including the bigots and the racists and the cranky old people that watch Fox News. And because they are the president for the entire country and see their job as being president and first lady for every American, they show up. That's the difference. It's called class. It's called leadership. It's called being the president of the United States, being the first lady of the United States. These are elegant, graceful, loving parents. And if they can talk to one person through Bill O'Reilly that might listen, they'll take that chance because they're better than Bill O'Reilly.
Well, I just don't to me, as an African-American, I don't see Bill O'Reilly really having a concern for what goes on in the African-American community. I think this is just one more thing that he likes to propagandize to his audience, which we know the age of his audience, that feeds into the stereotype of African-Americans.
I agree with you, but when you ask me why does the president do it, it's because the president does believe that he is, and the president truly is, the president of all America, including bigots, including racists, including cranky old white men, including 80-year-old ladies that sit there. The president knows that, he has to talk to all America. He doesn't segregate. He's not a bigot. He doesn't exclude. He doesn't say, I don't value your life because you watched this or that. The president shows up because the president is a leader. The president is a real man, if you will. He's a real leader. He's a serious guy with a good sense of humor.
Right. Well, my whole point though is I just do not take Bill O'Reilly serious at all.
No, I don't either.
He's concerned for what's going on in the black community because when I hear him talk,
he doesn't care what's going on in anybody's community. He cares what's going on in his condo. He cares what's going on in Levittown. He cares what's going on in his little neck of the woods. Do you know what I mean? He cares that he's the head guy at Fox. He cares that he's revered and feared at Fox. His entire world is on 52nd Street, okay, and 6th Avenue.
All right, Randy, have a good weekend.
Thank you. I mean, these people are in a bubble. And so whatever works for him, he's going to keep on doing because he likes those paychecks, and they're huge. And those paychecks come from peddling bigotry, intolerance, devaluation of this group or that group, love of the fetus, hate the child, scream and yell about an abortion doctor till somebody in your audience gets up and shoots them dead in a church, and then turn around and say, I have no effect on my audience. Then why are you getting paid all this money? See what I mean? They don't care about anything but themselves. The president cares about everything.
Rhodes. Turn up your mind. Here. Now. This is the Randy Rhodes Show.
to Randy. It's Randy Rhodes on Premier Radio Networks.
All right, 34 after. John in Santa Fe, California.
Close enough. How you doing, Randy?
Oh, okay.
I appreciate the opportunity. I guess my point is that I don't believe that the only kids that are from a single-parent home, the only kids that aren't in jail because of dealing drugs are Hispanic or African-American or Pacific Islanders.
Well, you're right.
Yeah, so why is the law only addressing those and excluding, so I guess maybe I misunderstand this. If you're a white male, can you apply for this program?
Sure.
Oh, cool. Then there's not a problem.
No. And it's not a law. It's just an initiative.
Right. But eventually it would...
But what I don't think you understand is that black youth have particular issues that the whites won't address. You know, they've got issues of redlining and predatory lending in their neighborhoods. They have disparate drug sentencing embedded in the law. Those are the laws that are racist. There's over-policing in the schools. You've got juries that, are supposing that if, the victim was black, their lives were worth less. They're underrepresented in just about every area of government. So there are specific problems that are that come with being a young black man that young white people, are starting to experience because the economy is so bad.
I just don't believe it should not be to the exclusion of any race. If you exclude a race or somebody because of their color, it's a racist law.
There's no exclusion as there is exclusion in like the Ku Klux Klan or the KK or the Aryan Nation where you can't be a member. Just like we played that interview of that woman Maya Arneson who runs a Christian business association in Arizona, and she excludes gay business owners. We don't do that. They do that.
I know. The Black Panther have never excluded anybody that's white.
Well, the Black Panthers worked with every person who was Jewish who came down to help them. They were welcome.
Right. So I'm sure there's plenty of other examples in white organizations that allow black people in.
I'm saying to you that to equate what I'm saying to you in your that to equate in your
race by its fact,
there's no exclusion.
Good. Then there's not a problem.
Good. That you would even think that should make you adjust your thought process. Mark in Louisville, Kentucky.
Randy, how are you?
Disgusted with him, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's part of the idiocy that there's a segment of white America really...
This is the old argument about why are there black music awards.
Right. There is a false equivalence that people seem to want to look for, and they operate from a premise that we're all on an even playing field. So that's fault number one. I mean, I applaud the president for at least taking this initiative, but this is something that should have been done and has been done in millions of black homes for as long as we've been here. The question that you asked on Facebook, how do you what do you tell a young black child how to live in this country? For quite a few of us, it is a battle of fighting the crap that they're being fed in this society by mainstream society, especially in school. It's also a very delicate balancing act because, you have to let a kid be a kid. You have to let them cultivate their own friendships and do their own social thing. But it's as they get older when the lessons get a little more problematic, especially in teenage years. I have a 15-year-old son who I'm very, very proud of, and he knows this. And one of the things that his mother and I, even though that, she and I are divorced, we've always made sure that he's had a strong sense of who he is as an individual and who he is as a black person in this country. In my video library, I have hours upon hours upon hours of black history documentaries. And I started collecting those years ago as a means of fighting the crap that they're being taught in schools. One of the most brilliant documentaries ever produced, Eyes on the Prize, that was done back in the 70s and 80s, is a collection that I have that my son has seen. Several books that are on black history. And, not the glossed over Black History Month version, not the Booker T. Washington and the Peanut, not the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream, but we get more into depth as to who we are as a people and how we got here in this country, and the struggles that we've had and the progress that we've made. And the one thing I didn't hear the president talk about in explicit terms was instilling a sense of pride, because, yeah, everything he's talking about is absolutes. Math and sciences are absolutes, but part of the problem we have is in not knowing who we really are. I mean, you're talking about a people who have had their language, their religion, their entire culture ripped from them, and then we've been brainwashed into trying to assimilate into a culture that means, for lack of a better explanation, and for all its pretense, that doesn't really mean for us to be here.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of saying that, of trying to explain as the leader of the free world that everybody's life, everybody's American life is valued, that everybody that is here has contributed, that everybody who is here can continue to contribute, but especially young black boys, they have a very difficult road because of all the things you just outlined, plus the fact that white America sees them as threatening just by their very existence. That listen, as a person who parented a white kid, I never had to tell her that she's viewed as a threat. That's not a conversation I ever had to have with Jess. I did have to have a conversation with her about being a girl, because girls have unique problems, and I had to tell her about boys and what boys are going to view her as. So every parent of every kind of a child has unique issues that they have to explain to this child. Okay, I know I have to tell her. I never had to tell Jess that the society doesn't value her or that they're going to view her as being a threat, but I did have to tell her about boys. On the other hand, you've got black boys in this country who don't believe this country values them, who don't believe that this country even wants them here, that don't believe they're welcome in certain schools, whose neighborhoods are, redlined, or their neighborhoods are full of predatory lending, check cashing stores, or there's an enormous amount of aggressive policing going on in their schools, and they get to see that juries come up with different verdicts based on whether or not they were the victim, young black men. I mean, yes, you're right. There's a whole different set of circumstances for black boys, and that's what the president was trying to explain, that no one in a position of the presidency has ever used their unique position as A, president, and B, an African-American president, because we never had one, to actually talk to a unique group of citizens who are facing a unique and particular set of issues.
And then you get callers like the one before me that take issue with that being addressed. I mean,
I know, and there's always going to be guys like that.
It's like, okay, we're not being treated equally because we're being excluded from this conversation. Well, part of the problem for some in white America is that you refuse to have the conversation.
You know what the problem... Listen, there is a problem with white America, and as part of white America, I can tell you without hesitation what the problem with white America is. And that is white America, no matter how bad things get for white America, they can always say, well, at least I'm not black. That's called white privilege. People have it. It's in them. There's no question about it. And when people like me speak up about it and try to get white people involved in the conversation about this, they accuse me of being somebody who bears white guilt. Well, you're damn right, because I know, and white Americans who are afraid and threatened by your very presence because you're not white, they know what they did to you. I have spent and will spend my life, my kids' life, instilling in them a desire to make it more equal, more level, more accepting, more valued, more honest and open. They will spend their lives cowering in the corner, fearful that you will figure out what was done to you, as if you don't know. You're too stupid to even know your own history, and rise up and do something to them, which is why he brings up the Black Panthers so quickly. However, as a Northeastern Jew, I know that civil rights workers worked hand in hand with the Black Panthers.
Exactly. And there were Jewish people that were founders of the NAACP.
Yes.
So, again, when you don't know your history, you're going to become a victim of it. And the thing is that, that kills me, and it's almost comical, is when people of color, black people especially, that seem to be a little more intellectually equipped than some of our white counterparts, we're treated as the exception instead of the rule.
Right.
Which, that angers me because, you know what? There are more of us that are doing, better than you have been led to believe.
Yeah.
We're a lot more educated than you have been led to believe.
I know.
We're heading, Fortune 500 companies. We're teaching in prestigious universities. But those are things that upset your lily white sense of what the world is supposed to be.
Yes.
And you're having you're having an aneurysm, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Right, exactly, because here what's going on in the old, closed white mind, okay, because not everybody feels this way, but what's going on in the closed white mind is they know that their time has come and gone from being the Irish immigrants and rising, or the Italian immigrants and rising, or the European immigrants and rising. Their time has come and gone. They've left their mark, whatever it is, that is their legacy. It's done. And they're cowering in a corner thinking, oh, my God, it's time to pass the torch. But I don't know how to do that gracefully, so I'm going to act like a cornered animal. I'm going to act like a wounded, animal who's just afraid of everything that's going to come near me, even if it's coming to me to help me. I'm going to bite its head off.
And one of the running jokes, and it's not really a joke, that has been going on ever since the Michael Dunn trial and Trayvon Martin and conversations about gun control, and it goes back to something that the Black Panthers firmly believed in. And if you're watching social media, you're starting to see this take off as somewhat of a mantra. And people are starting to encourage more of us, more African Americans who can, to go out, get a license for weapons.
Oh, I know.
Concealed carry handguns, the whole 9 yards. I mean, no matter how you feel about the gun control issue.
I know that, and you know what I've said.
Leveling of the playing field.
Well, you know how I feel about guns, so that's obviously, but. My biggest fear with this is that because there's such a disparity in sentencing and laws and juries minds and the color of the perpetrator and the color of the victim factor so heavily into their verdicts, it scares the bejesus out of me that you will have black men standing their ground. I mean, it doesn't work for inner city kids, right? I mean, they're terrified every single day. They perceive that there is a threat to cause them great bodily harm just walking home from school. They're not wrong. Their neighborhoods are rough. They are tough. Everybody's armed to the teeth in those neighborhoods. And if a kid shoots and claims self-defense, I just don't think it's going to fly. I just don't, because we're not an equal. We don't have equal justice under the law, and that's what scares me. However, I understand the argument. I do. I get it. I really, I do get it. But listen, here's the point. You have an African-American president who is obviously here to make America better, more economically sound, who's trying to spread, the wealth disparity out, to try to raise the minimum wage, to do background checks to prevent the wrong people from getting guns, meaning people who are mentally unsound. You have the president is trying to help, but what you have are a group of closed-minded, angry white men who, like I said, are behaving like cornered animals, that even if the president is coming to help them, they tear him apart because they're so fearful of black.
And the irony,
and the only reason why they're afraid of it, is because they know what they've done.
Right.
And they don't know how to handle that. They don't know how to process it.
The irony of this whole thing, of what everything the president is trying to accomplish, if you look at the history of this country as it relates to the people of color, if she should happen to be the one to succeed where everybody else has failed because of a lack of trying, how was that going to look on their legacy. It took a black man to fix the problems that white people started.
Yeah, there's no question. We started the slavery, and it did take the black man and the black man's desire for freedom and love of their own family and love of their own culture to make us stop. I mean, yes, you saved us from being horrible sinners, really disgusting human beings. No question. 49 after.
Randy Rhodes. Radio, only smarter. This is the Randy Rhodes Show.
You're listening to Radio Monterey at radiomonterey.com.
You're listening to Randy Rhodes on Premier Radio Networks.
Robert in Whittier, California.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Robert.
I'm the guy that called you last, like a week and a half ago with the Trayvon. I cried like a little baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a lot of email about you.
55-year-old white man, here living here in Southern California, watching the rain fall right now.
Yeah, good. I'm glad it's raining. I know it comes with its problems, but I'm glad that it's raining.
Yeah, I'm going to sit back on my couch and relax and recognize I'm talking to you and not try and think that I'm talking to a whole lot of people right now. But, I mean, so much goes through my mind all the time. And I don't get it. Why is Diane Sawyer got World News Tonight? Why are you not on, like, mandatory? It's crazy. I mean, you explain so much stuff to me. It's like, it just blows my mind, Oh. I mean, your callers are right on about things. Everything's man-made. I mean, really, literally,
people,
the Bible was written by men.
Well, when you have these conversations with people, they're telling you what their experience is, and there is no right and wrong. People will show you, whether they're smart, ignorant, aware of the world around them, understand what real values are, or not. And that's why it's really a no-brainer. I mean, when people are telling you what their experience is and you choose to ignore them, you're depriving yourself of a chance to actually grow. And, I won't do that. I'm not gonna play the game of I'm so afraid of everybody else that I don't even want to participate in life. I don't want to hear other people's experiences. I don't want to know what your culture is, what you like about it, what you don't like. I don't want to know what your problems are every day. That's bull crap. I want to know, and I want to help solve the problem. I want to be on the side of understanding and compassion and empathy.
Everything just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course I know what you mean. I mean, my whole life is about that. Ray in Middletown, New York.
Hi, Randy. Thank you for the show. After the president's speech yesterday, which I watched the entire thing, and I felt like Jonathan Capehart, who wrote about it in the Washington Post today, and it brought tears to my eyes while I was listening because it just reminded me of the fact that you could even be a young man of color, have an opportunity to go to great schools. I went to a private school in New York. I went to Princeton University after that. But were it not for some of the men that I was associated with through school and through other outside activities, some of whom were black, one or two of whom were white, I don't know that I would have been able to have matriculated the way that I did. So when you listen to the president talking about people being mentors and examples for young men, the one thing that gentleman, the young man that called you, and obviously he's young and ignorant, what he doesn't quite understand is that you don't have to be a young black man that's from an underprivileged family or what have you to be affected by a mentor, whether it's a man or a woman, someone who can open your eyes up to something that you didn't see before, or someone who takes a little extra time with you to help you see things that you never saw before, and to help you grow into a full and as the president said, compassionate person. And it just brought back so many memories for me of working with young kids in my area in Harlem and watching them grow from day to day when we would.
Here's the thing. I mean, this guy who's like, can white kids go? Why don't you mentor a white kid? Do you know what I'm saying? Go mentor somebody. Just let them know that their life has value to you. That makes all the difference. You know that, and I know that.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show on the Premier Radio Networks.
Mary had a little man.
The fault, dear Brutus.
Lift off. The clock has started.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Abject fear.
Are you talking about you?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Feeling fabulous! On this, the final day of February 2014, it's BS News for Friday, and away we go. Dateline, the Twilight Zona. This week, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer vetoed a bill that allowed discrimination against gay people due to religious belief. Conservatives who own restaurants in Arizona struck back at the gay community the only way they could, by getting rid of the mimosa brunch special. Dateline, men in jockstraps. Meanwhile, one of Washington's most powerful lobbyists is proposing a law to ban gay players from the NFL. And if that doesn't fly, they at least want to ban defenses from using man-on-man coverage. Hot. Dateline, the nudge. This week, Ted Nugent managed to remain in the spotlight with interviews on CNN and several radio shows. You know, it's odd that a guy who spends so much time calling attention to himself prefers to dress in camouflage. Ted advice here. If you don't want to be seen, try shutting your mouth for a day or two. Okay? Dateline, the Ripley effect. A Virginia state senator in a Facebook rant said that a woman has no right to terminate a pregnancy because she is merely, quote, the child's host. That would be accurate if babies were the creatures from the Alien movies. Upon being told that, the lawmaker did note that life begins at conception, not when the baby busts its way through your rib cage and chews through your chest. Finally, Dateline, Downton, and Out. A new study says that income inequality in America right now is worse than on the PBS show Downton Abbey. Not only that, the characters in America right now aren't nearly as likable. We're closing in on Mimosa O'Clock. I love that plan. It's BS News for Friday. Have a great weekend.
All right. So much now. I got to say, hats off to the president. I thought what he did yesterday was very important, and I thought it was meaningful, and I thought it was personal, and I thought it was heartfelt, and I thought it was exceptional to use his unique position as President of the United States. Isn't it interesting that only Democrats ever talk about the advancement of colored people? Isn't it just so fascinating that when it comes to everything from civil rights to leveling the playing field, income inequality, laws that are that are designed to hobble one community over another, meaning, we just lived through this week with the gay community being told that they're not important and that they're not valued consumers and that they're not, deserving of civil liberties and that they're not allowed to enter into contracts the way other Americans. And it always takes, Democrats to say, no, can't really draw the line between having access to the full promise of the American dream based on your sexual orientation any more than Democrats can say, no, don't want you participating in the economy in any meaningful way or in education in any meaningful way based on your skin color or your ethnic heritage. It's always a Democrat. It's always a Democrat that actually steps up to the plate and says, you know what, I may not know what you're your worldview is. I may not understand what your experience is in this world, but I don't fear you. I want to know you. I value whatever your experience is. And if you'll talk to me about it, if you'll explain it to me, if you'll share it with me, if you'll open yourself up to me, I will open myself up to you, and we can have a meaningful dialogue about how to solve all of our problems, which are interdependent. The problems that white people have are different from the problems that some black people have. The problems that some black people have are different from the problems that some white people have. But in the end, all Americans are having a problem. And the problem has to do with the distribution of wealth, the devaluing of human life, the devaluing of human labor, the devaluing of human hopes and dreams. It's just epidemic in this country. True, everybody took a different path to this place that we're all in. Some people were forced into that place just by the playing field and its design. Other people were taken advantage of by predatory lenders, and other people were just collateral damage in a great bank heist. However, now that we're all in this same place, we should all agree that this has all got to be resolved. This has all got to end. You know what's crazy is on a whole host of issues, there is broad agreement in this country on every issue that would affect everybody, universally. There is universal agreement across party lines, across races, across religions, across economic class. We all agree on certain things. It is an amazing thing to take note. Joe Biden, who I think is going to run for president, 2016, I don't obsess over it. I obsess over 2014. We have a midterm election, people. Wise up. Start paying attention. It's just a few months away. But Joe Biden, I think, is going to run for president, and he's been doing a lot of talking lately about all the things we do agree on.
This is the first time in my career, Nancy, where on every major issue, the American people agree with the Democratic Party. Think about it. No, I really mean it. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but think about it.
Yeah, do.
Every issue facing the American people, particularly the embattled middle class, on every single issue, from what you were able to do in the debt ceiling, they weren't about to go ahead and play games at this time because of you, to minimum wage, 72% of the American people supported an increase in minimum wage, early childhood education, 86% of the people, immigration reform, 73% of the Democrats, 60% of Republicans, background checks on weapons, 90% of the American people, infrastructure, 88% of the American people think it's a means by which we can grow the country. The American people agree with us, 55% on marriage equality. Overwhelmingly, they agree with us on pay equity. And even 55% is all the difficulties you're facing now with the ACA. 55% of the American people don't want to see it repealed. I can't think of a time when the issues that most affect the American people, most affect the middle class, overwhelmingly they support us. And I'd make another point to you. There isn't a Republican Party. I wish there were. I wish there was a Republican Party. I wish there was one person you could sit across the table from, make a deal, make a compromise, and know when you got up from that table it was done. That's what political parties, that's what Nancy's able to do. That's what the president's able to commit to. But there is now. All you had to do is look at the response of the State of the Union. What were there, 3 or 4? Yeah. No, I'm not being facetious. And so I think we should just get a little focused here. So keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. The American people are where we are. And let's go out and make every single effort, not just to defend, but to aggressively push our agenda. They are with us. They are with us.
That's the crazy part. That's the crazy part. The crazy part is that 72% of us agree the minimum wage should be increased. 86% of us agree with Obama yesterday about early childhood education for all kids. 86% of us think that's a worthy investment. 72% of us want immigration reform. We've gone through this. 60% of Republicans want immigration reform. Background checks. 86 to 90% of Americans want background checks to keep people who are mentally unable to qualify for rational decision-making or self-harm or harming others. 86% of us want background checks to make sure that guns are in the hands of the people who they belong to, you know, who deserve to have them, if that's a way to say it. It's hard for me to say because I hate guns, you know that, but 86% of us want background checks. Infrastructure investment. 88% of us want infrastructure investment. We think that leaving a legacy of, you know, what our parents thought to leave us, or our grandparents thought to leave us, in a highway system that was the envy of the world, or a rail system that was the world has surpassed us. They have high-speed rail, they have world-class education, they have paid leave for young mothers and fathers to stay home with their children and be there when those bonds are being formed, which is such an important time in any person's life, the first few months of being in this world, to be nurtured and to be touched and to be talked to and to be held. It sets, I mean, there's an old expression, you are who you are by the time you're 5. Marriage equality, more than half the country is for marriage equality, more than half the country is for pay equity, meaning women should not make 75 cents or 72 cents on the dollar. 55% of us want the ACA left alone. So what the hell? What the hell, okay? Well, what the hell is you have a bunch of seriously lame legislators, seriously stupid legislators, and seriously self-serving legislators, which is an oxymoron. When you're a public servant, you should not self-serve. When you're a public servant, you should public serve. Serve the public. It is in the title of the job. Unfortunately, the money is literally a temptation that, for some reason, some people just can't refuse. They think it's the name of the game. Well, it's not a game. Democracy isn't a game. There shouldn't be a there shouldn't be a barrier to entry called millions of dollars. Right there, we've gone off the rails. Now we've got hundreds of millions of dollars in local races, gerrymandering, because 2010, any year that ends in a zero is a redistricting year. Remember that after I die, okay? Any year that ends in a zero is a redistricting year. People are literally redistricted out of having any competition for the House seat this midterm election. Now, why do they do that? They do that because it's cheaper that way. It's all about business. If the Koch brothers need to buy a district, well, why not just redistrict it, and then you don't have to put any money in? It's a cost saver for them. People in districts that are considered safe are exactly who needs to vote. Exactly who needs to get out there and vote. Because a district is safe doesn't mean it's not winnable. It means that based on your prior performance at the polling place, that district isn't up for grabs. Now, I realize that there aren't going to be a lot of challengers in safe districts, but if there is one, I would go for it. If there is any Democrat on any ballot in a Republican safe district, even if you don't know anything about that person, find out. Find out anything you can, and if they haven't, committed armed robbery, vote for them. 19 after.
Randi Rhodes. Radio, only smarter. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
You're listening to Radio Monterey at radiomonterey.com.
Heard. Call 866-87-RANDY. Now, back to Randy Rhodes.
All right, just a few minutes ago, if you're following Ukraine and what's going on there, the Russians are, positioning, and there's been just a whole hell of a lot of crap going on today. TV stations surrounded by armed people, airports seeing armed presence. Nobody knows who these people are. Some are contractors. They're unmarked. But the president did just give a statement about Ukraine and how America views it.
Any violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity would be deeply destabilizing, which is not in the interest of Ukraine, Russia, or Europe. It would represent a profound interference in matters that must be determined by the Ukrainian people. It would be a clear violation of Russia's commitment to respect the independence and sovereignty and borders of Ukraine and of international laws. And just days after the world came to Russia for the Olympic Games, it would invite the condemnation of nations around the world. And indeed, the United States will stand with the international community in affirming that there will be costs for any military intervention in Ukraine.
It's I knew as soon as the Olympics ended that Putin was going to rear his ugly little military head. I mean, there's just no question about it. And so he says that the situation in Ukraine is fluid. Let's remember that there have been other situations. Remember when Vlad decided he would invade Georgia. Remember that? The Republicans, of course, were on Vlad's side. And then you had Chechnya, where we had to get all NATO on their ass. So this may be one of those. I don't know. But obviously we believe that there are Russian forces in Ukraine and that they need to get the hell out of there. Frankie in L.A.
Hey, always an awesome pleasure to speak with you, Randy.
Thank you.
I love this whole concept of the president. I'm old enough to remember back in the day when I was growing up. I'm obviously African-American and grew up upstate New York.
You are not obviously African-American. I cannot see you.
Oh, a lot of my friends say, you don't talk black, Frankie. But anyway, point being, one of my points is, first of all, slavery is not in the president's DNA. And this is not to, by any means, devalue anything that he's pushing for. As I was about to say, when I was growing up, I remember the Big Brother program. I'm in entertainment out here in L.A., have been for 20 years. I myself have saved at least about 20 young kids from gangs, from the Crips, from the Bloods. These guys nowadays, I'm looking at them, and we're in the studio last week, and they're like one of my mentors who's now a father, has a daughter, and he himself now is a mentor to other young musicians and producers. And he's in the studio, and not like I'm ringing my bell. He's ringing my bell. He's telling some of the other musicians in the studio. He's like, oh, my God. Frank grabbed me when I was 14 years old. I was joining the Crips. He pulled me out. He and my mom brought me to his studio, and here I am now 20 years later. And that's one example. And more to my main point, we had a Big Brothers program. That's the stuff that inspired me back in the 60s. I'm not sure if it was Kennedy or Johnson that started that. And I'm going to take a breath, but I'm trying to get some points in here. DNA is not in the president's. It's not in slavery. It's not in his DNA. And I'll tell you something. My parents, I used to go into stores. I'm in my 50s, Rand, and I would go into stores with my parents, and I would look up I would look at other white kids, right? My age when I was a little toddler or whatever. And it was amazing to me because my parents would do not look, leave them alone. I'm like, Mom, it's just there. You just don't bother. And then a white person would walk over, and my mother would immediately, or my dad would look at their shoes. That is programming. That is something that is taught from generation to generation. And I always tell my friends, I make a joke about this, but and there's a reality to it. If I had 400 years of free labor, I would be a superpower. and the point is, I got to tell you, you're talking about like right now, if some omnipotent being came out of the clouds and went to Saudi Arabia and said, okay, all you ladies, you're all free. You take out your whatever, and you're now, you could drive, whatever you want to do. I promise you the majority of them would not drive. The majority of them would not do this. Their heart their hard-line program, the code that has been written for generations. My dad and his dad, they would walk into stores. They would never show eye contact to a white person. Obama does not know that, and I love this president. But he does not know. It's not, slavery is not built in. His father's from Africa. His mother is American, African-American. And this guy, as far as all intent and purpose, Obama, whom I love, and I keep having to put that out there because I don't want people to think or get the wrong impression of my point. This guy is the same thing as any other immigrant from India, from China. Yes, he's experienced discrimination.
Randi Rhodes. Turn up your mind here now. This is the Randi Rhodes Show.
Randi Rhodes, 24/7, online and on demand. Get access to live streaming video, show podcasts, and 60 days of Randi archives. Visit RandiRhodes.com today and join Randi Rhodes 24/7 for just $6.95 a month. Now, back to Randi.
It is tax season, I know. And for a lot of people, it's a reminder that you're behind on your taxes. Well, let me tell you something. If you have tax problems, any kind of tax problems, you want somebody who can help you work with the IRS, somebody who knows what the rules are, someone who can negotiate for you to get your problem solved. It's serious to be behind on your taxes, but there is a serious solution. It's called Optima Tax Relief. They will work to immediately help you take the right approach with the IRS to find the answer to your tax problem. There is a limited time program that is now in effect. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative. It's one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has offered in years and years. Now, before these changes, nobody really knew that programs were available to really cut the payment, right? But they are there, and nobody knows these tax relief programs like the experts at Optima Tax Relief. They are fully accredited with the Better Business Bureau, or I wouldn't send you there, but don't wait until it's too late. Just call Optima, get a free consultation, and get it off your mind. 800-501-0866. 800-501-0866. Again, it's 800-501-0866. All right, so, Frankie, your phone call was so muddy, I really wasn't sure what you kept saying over and over again. You kept saying something was not in Obama's DNA, and I had to ask everybody here, especially Sean, because he talked to you on the phone, what you were saying, and he said that you were telling me that Obama, even though you love him as a president, doesn't have slavery. That's what you were saying. He didn't have slavery in his DNA. I got to say this. This president lived in this country as a black man. If he doesn't know what driving while black or being followed around while black or what the prejudices are or what the challenges were getting into Harvard or what the challenges are getting out of high school and into a good college, if he doesn't know that, I don't know why I'm saying if he doesn't. Of course he knows that. That's just ridiculous. And then I just wanted to bring this little factoid up to you. I have no slavery in my DNA. I don't. Okay, I'm Jewish. I guess I do. I take it back. But you know what I'm saying to you? I don't have African American slavery in my DNA. I'm also not black. Does that mean that I can't see what the laws are that are affecting the black community by design? Does that mean that I don't have a social conscience and I say, you know what, if you enshrine in law Jim Crow laws, if you enshrine in law separate but equal, if you put into the law predatory lending is allowed, or if I live in this zip code, the banks are not to make loans to me because the government won't guarantee those loans, redlining, or if I see that there are different rules for funding schools in places where people rent versus places where people own, or if I see that there is a different sentence for crack cocaine versus powder cocaine, as if you are I don't know, on powder, you'll be just fine, but on crack, well, you'll go crazy. If I can't see that there's a difference between corporate welfare that typically goes to the lily whitest people on the planet versus the few pennies of food stamps that go to single mothers, veterans, and disabled people, just because I'm not, one of those people, then there's something wrong with my empathy, is what I'm saying. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the president's compassion or empathy. I don't think he's got a deficit in those areas, and I don't think I do either. So that argument about Obama is not uniquely situated to fix the problems that are affecting the middle class or people who are of color in this country, that's just ridiculous, because I have no color. I'm translucent. I'm like Casper, okay? I'm like, you could see through me. I'm Ukrainian is what I am, and I never lived as a black person, and yet I know what the experience is because people tell it to me, and I listen to them. I absorb what they say. There's an old expression. If you want to be someone who people like to talk to, then be somebody who listens. Brother David in L.A.
Absolutely true.
Where have you been?
Oh, I haven't had a phone for 2 months.
Oh, good.
It's been crazy, let me tell you. Thank God for Crackbook and email.
Who's going to win the Academy Award?
Yes, my tribe Super Bowl. And we all know what's going to win Best Picture, and that just segues right into what we're talking about today.
You think it's 12 Years a Slave?
Oh, don't you think?
No.
They like to look back instead of forward, hence Schindler's List. And, yeah, I think so.
No.
I think so.
No.
I don't know that for sure, but it's a dead heat right now in the prognosticators between it and Gravity.
Gravity?
I know. I'm just telling you what my journalistic friends in that end of the profession are telling me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And did I not warn you to steel yourself against that movie? Yeah.
I've seen almost all the movies. I mean, the only thing I haven't seen is Gravity.
Well, yeah, and the only way to see it is in a great big IMAX with 3D glasses.
Yeah.
To stand that, so you haven't missed that much, Randy.
No, I like Sandra Bullock and.
Oh, she's lovely in it.
Yeah.
She's the whole movie. Her in the 3D.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. When I was watching 44's speech, I not only was struck by his heartfelt compassion, but these two quotes kept running through my mind. One was the actress, back to the movie weekend, Margaret Sullivan's famous statement that the only prejudice worth having was against people who are prejudiced.
Yeah.
And the other was a song by David Friedman that the late, great Nancy Lamott popularized before she died too young, called We Can Be Kind, that has the bridge goes, it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it. And, that's really what he's talking about here. People, regardless of their race, need to be walking the walk and thinking about being their brother's keeper, because guess what? As I say all the time on the message board, hi, message board, we really are all in this together, even that 1 to 25% who think they live on a different planet somehow. And he does see it. I got where the previous caller was trying to come from, but I could not agree with him less. I'm part Cherokee. Do I necessarily think that I'm part of, the Trail of Tears and that no, I was lucky. But that doesn't mean I can't look at that situation, or I can't look at what's going on in Venezuela, where they wouldn't even have Facebook or tweet to let the world know what's going on. Don't get me started on the Ukraine right now.
Yeah.
And if you see it, and you don't do anything about it, or at least try to do something about it, then guess what? You are a part of the problem, and that's what he's proposing.
You know what? I'm not even demanding that the right wing do something about it, because they're so completely backward. But I am trying to get them to understand what's going on. I'm not even asking them to do anything about it.
But comprehend. Can you try to comprehend?
Try to comprehend, and if you can't, just sit over there and just be quiet. We got this. Do you know what I mean? We got this. We will fix it for you, and you don't have to do much of anything except shut up about it. But it would be good if you could understand it, and then perhaps there would be a chance to ask people to get involved in their own economy. How does this economy do well when you have large chunks of it completely marginalized or completely devalued or completely...
So they can't put anything back into it.
Right.
Literally.
I mean, the more taxpayers you have, the happier you should be.
Bingo. And it's already set up to punish the poor for being poor. Then you factor in this sort of, it is draconian. You factor in, well, and this group of poor that are a certain color, or this group of low income that are from a certain region, or this, it multiplies and multiplies and multiplies.
Well, see, this is kind of the argument that guy was making. It's kind of the right-wing argument, too, and he's going to hate me for saying this because I know he didn't mean it this way. Believe me, I do. I could tell that his heart was in the right place. But honestly, what he's saying is Obama didn't have in his DNA a certain thing. And that's the right-wing argument against African Americans, is that their DNA is defective and they can't be... I mean, it's the same damn argument about your DNA predetermining where you end up, and I just don't buy into that. I just don't think that that's a factor here. I think the factor here is whether or not you have a level playing field, whether the laws are discriminatory. Look what they just tried to do in Arizona. My God, they're constantly trying to write discrimination into the law over and over again.
And here's the one hopeful thing. You know me, always trying to find what the hopeful thing is. The generations about 4 behind me, they don't get it. They really don't get it. And it's that middle-aged post-baby boomer field that thinks that if they just keep hammering it on, the planet's not going to spin forward. It's going to spin backward. And I don't buy it either.
You know what the dirty little secret of the right is? That they are acutely aware of the changing demographics, and they are running against them, okay? Mm-hmm. You know, these are people who think the Earth is just a few thousand years old, okay, fine, but they can read polls. And the data tells them what the data tells me, that they're screwed as far as being the predominant power that gets legislated for. Those days have come and gone, okay? And all of the things that they got legislated, Jim Crow laws and, separate schools and separate drinking and all that, and on the middle class issues, the idea that, or even on religion, I have news for them. 1 in 4 Americans hold no religious belief. Their days are over. They know it. And like I said, they're like cornered animals, and they're biting the heads off of anybody that would help them.
And that's the saddest thing of all, is that we that do understand that want to help them too.
Yes.
Everyone on board,
right.
Not just some.
Because our economy is interwoven, interrelated, interstate, interactive, and we need them to participate to the fullest extent of their abilities. And frankly, we don't write them off as income earners. We don't write their children off. We don't write their taxes off. We want their tax dollars to buy what they need too. We want their tax dollars to provide early childhood education. We want them to have a good minimum wage. We want them to have safety in their communities with background checks preventing people who shouldn't have guns from having guns. We want infrastructure built for them. We want to see the water problems, in California be mitigated. Okay, this is what we want. We paid down the deficit. We wanted to do it. We did it. We balance budgets. We create 22 million jobs. We create equality. We do what we can do wherever we find people are being marginalized or devalued. We always step up to the plate, always. And that includes them, too. I mean, when President Johnson saw the conditions of Appalachia, oh, my God, he did a war on poverty. That was a specifically targeted war on the poorest white people in this country.
Oh, exactly.
So, I got to say, we are trying to help them. We've always tried to help them because we know we're all connected. But they are like cornered animals, and they, even if you're there to help them, will tear you apart while you're trying to help them, just like an injured animal would. Because they don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't understand why you would want to help them, and so they just figure you're coming to take whatever is left of them. And it's exactly the opposite.
Bingo. It's the definition of liberal.
true.
Who is the weakest among me?
Yes, always.
Must strengthen.
All right, enjoy the Oscars. I'll be watching them in New York, and hopefully it doesn't snow me in there and I can get back.
Well, we shall see. That's the biggest suspense. Is it going to rain? All the hairdo is going to be imperiled.
They were putting up tents this morning, so.
And Ellen. We're so looking forward to seeing what Ellen comes up with.
Oh,
Love
Ellen, yes, Ellen.
Yeah.
Ellen.
Yeah.
Four wardrobe changes, I heard.
Oh, excellent.
I know. It should be really good. But, Best Picture, Gravity, really, that would be a heartbreaker for me. You know what would be really cool is if Nebraska won, but it won't. So I think it's between American Hustle and 12 Years a Slave is what I think. And Matthew McConaughey, as smarmy as I think he is, he'll probably win Best Actor. And wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Oh, what's her name from 12 Years a Slave? Lupita Nyong'o. She should win. I mean, people go, why do you have Black Music Awards? Because all awards are white awards. That's why you only had one Best Actress ever of color. It was Halle Berry. She was the only black actress in the history of the Academy Awards that ever won Best Actress. That's like a little handy way to show people why you need black, music awards and why you need a Black Miss America award. That's just a way. 49 after.
Randy Rhodes. You are 10 digits away from the ride of your life. 866-87-RANDY. This is the Randy Rhodes Show.
Hey, this is Stephanie Miller. You're listening to the station that encourages you to think for yourself. What a concept. AM 540 KRXA.
Call 866-87-RANDY. That's 1-866-877-2634. Now, back to Randy Rhodes.
Judy in Seattle. Hi, Judy.
Hi there.
Hey.
I know this is going to be a short segment, so I'm going to be really quick. Yesterday I got this e-card from somebody, and it says, what month is White History Month? When is Straight Pride Month? Can I just be an American? I seem to be getting lost in the shuffle. So I wrote back. I thought about it for a long time because I was really angry about this one, and this is somebody I love dearly, and I was trying to think of how can I comment on this, but not upset them too much. So my response to was, of course you can be an American. Anyone can. In answer to both questions, I would say you can choose any and all of January, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November, and December. I suppose anyone who wants to can celebrate their white straightness in February and October as well. Hey, 10 out of 12 months is not too bad.
Yeah, especially December, because we all know that Jesus was white, according to Megyn Kelly. So I would say White History Month should be December because...
Well, it could be, but then again...
No, I understand your point. And, as you were explaining this e-card to me, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking you could have every month but February for any of those things, okay?
Well, you see...
we do have a gay pride parade.
October is...
But wait a minute. I just want to say this. We have a gay pride parade, but we also have a St. Patrick's Day parade where no gays are allowed. So
that is true.
All right, so everybody has their thing, right? Everybody has their thing. And as long as it's going to be, just an observance, or it's going to be a holiday, or it's going to be a parade, we let the Ku Klux Klan march, right? Because we believe in free speech. Everybody could have their but you can't codify it into law.
That's true, and like I said, LGBT month is October. That's why I didn't include that I included that in the end. Because I actually looked it up. I said, "Is there a
But doesn't this just scream? I feel threatened. I feel threatened."
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like it's like, hey, you got 10 months to pick. Pick one. Have your own month. It's like,
You know, it's like this is the argument. Okay, I used to say to my mother when I was a snotty little kid, "Why is there Mother's Day and there's no?" And I said, "There's no Children's Day, right?" And you know what her answer was, and every mother in the audience.
Yeah.
Because every day is Children's
Day.
Every day is American white guy day. Every day.
I'm still cleaning the toilet on Mother's Day, so there you go.
Oh, poor baby. Oh, my God. That's so wrong on so many levels. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.
You too.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ay, ay, ay. Stop being so threatened. Maybe if you were involved in other experiences, you might feel less threatened. You might feel more open. You might feel better. Try feeling better.
This is the Randy Rhodes Show on the Premier Radio Networks.